Dear friends, I hope you are ready to get started with your online courses. We will be having a look at the learning resources, scheduling, other requirements, and the type of course structures you could offer. Let's get started with a view of learning resources. These are basic teaching materials which you will have to collect before you begin your course. So once you have identified or decided upon the subject or the kind of course you wish to offer, you would have to look into books, websites, audio and visual files, and other required documents to make your teaching effective. Books. When we think about books, we will have to divide them into primary and secondary material. This will help you plan your lesson well or the topics for your course based on the chapters of your book. The secondary material will be your workbooks and other kind of reference books which you use like dictionary, encyclopedia and whatnot. Websites. When we think about websites, it's essential for us to remember that most of our students are tech savvy and they love technology. So yes, it is the duty of a teacher to help them with the best available websites. So identify the websites which you would recommend to the students for some extra or self-learning, or websites which you would love to use for your teaching itself. Audio and visual files are good material which is required, especially when it comes to language teaching. Others can of course utilize it to enhance your course. Other documents would be activities or kind of worksheets you would like to assign your students to. Schedule. This happens to be an integral part of planning your course. Once you have identified your course title and the learning resource that is required for your teaching, you will have to schedule the process. Scheduling is a step-by-step procedure of rolling out your course. To begin with, you will have to identify the number of days or the week number which is essential or necessary for you to complete your entire course. This will depend upon the topics. When we come to topics, you will have to decide the kind of topic which you are going to cover each week. And when you are deciding about the topic, you would also have to look into the learning activity and learning resources which you will be integrating into each topic for the learner. Evaluation is an integral part of our teaching in order to follow up on the learner's learning progress. So help the students to self-reflect more than compete with each other. Give them a progress bar to help them identify how they are progressing during the evaluation process. So I've mentioned a few of the question types which would help us with the evaluation process. So when you are thinking about the assessment choices you would want to make, I would recommend keep it open book. Because when we are working online, the students have access to innumerable material and there's always a WhatsApp and other technology which they can use to share their answers at the same time. So once you keep it open book, you are going to challenge the students to search for answers within the material, and you are not going to give them any choices to discuss those answers with their friends. So technology will not be of any use when it comes to open book assessment. So I would highly recommend you to think of the objective types and open book for your assessment choices. The next is identifying the assessment and the type. So once you have decided what kind of evaluation method you are going to roll out, you will have to think about when exactly are you going to conduct the test. Are you going to give them kind of assignments in order to evaluate their learning? So you can make a choice between the formative or the summative kind of assessment. The formative assessment is going to be weekly tests or pop quizzes, which you can organize from time to time to check the learning process. It can also be oral interaction where you ask questions and the learners answer you. The summative assessment would be the final or the collective examination which you roll out to your students towards the end of a topic or towards the end of the course. In schools, we do have the midterm exams and final exams. So do we have the same at the university level too, and we have assignments and we do have quizzes. So you have to identify these and the time and the date in which you want to conduct it, and also the mark division or the weightage each category is going to carry. So the student will be able to analyze and view their learning progress. Other requirements. This is a very important part of the online course program. Let me share a story with you before I tell you why we need class policies. Sometime back, while we were teaching online at the university, I was having a discussion with a friend who's teaching at a technical university in India as to how her classes were going on. She was very sad, and she said the very first time she logged in, almost for a week or so, she had her students in informal settings. Some of them were still in their beds and they had logged in to attend the class. We have to remember that a classroom is a formal setting and we cannot permit informal behavior. There are other problems as well which teachers face. Students begin to chat with one another during your session. This can be discouraging and not welcome at all. So it's important for you to set your class policies, because if it is a face-to-face classroom, we have entire class control. We know how to organize our class. We know how to make our learners respond the manner in which we plan our entire session. But during an online class engagement, we might have other issues. Most of the time, I think we teachers opt not to use the video mode. Of course, if it is The children category, they would want to see their teachers. So there we will have to go into video conferencing mode. So plan your class policy. So these are terms and conditions your students will have to follow during your session. So inform them about your expectation with regard to their behavior during the session. You can ask them to turn on their mics and respond, or ask closed-end questions. So you will have monosyllabic answers to identify their presence. You can allocate marks, or you can encourage them and motivate them by giving an applaud or saying very good when they respond, and so forth. You would also have to discourage students from interacting among themselves and be in control of the chat box during your session. The next thing would be assignment, guidelines and rubrics. So when you are giving assignments or projects to your students, you will have to also tell them how marks will be divided in accordance and the mode of submission too. So give them in bits and pieces and tell them how to work on it. The next part is the due dates. You will have to decide upon the due date or the final date for submission of assignments or other projects which you have given the students. You will also have to be the decision maker as to what you would do, or what would be your response if there's going to be a delay during the assignment submission. I would request you, or I would recommend a little bit of leniency towards the students so they will not feel too much of pressure. Also be ready for some internet problems and fluctuations, because you would have to support your students as well as the students will have to be supportive of their teacher during this online session. I remember, like, when I was in this process of teaching with one of my classes, my internet stopped. Luckily, I had my mobile device with me. I logged in and I told my students to wait because I was having internet problems on my laptop. I had to transfer the presentations and get everything organized from my mobile phone and conduct the class. The students were very understanding and they waited till I got or settled things ready. Likewise, they too have login and log out problems. You'll have to help them out there too. You'll also have to look into class policies as to if they miss a session. Remember, this is not regular class, this is tuition class. So if they miss a session, they will have to pay for an extra session, because if it's their own fault, they would have to do that. You cannot accommodate them when this is over. And also inform your students that there is going to be no recorded session, because we are online, we are going to do things live, so we don't want any recordings during the session. Fine. So fix your class policies. I'm just giving you an idea as to what kind of decisions I would make and inform my students when it comes to classroom policies and getting their act together. This is the final section of the presentation today. Types of course structure. So you can see the list. Micro-credential. It is ideally 1 to 5 hours. You can consider training, workshops, webinars, under this micro-credential type of course. Short courses or intensive learning programs. Usually it goes up to 21 hours, so you can consider a 3-day or a 5-day program under short courses. Beginner certificate course. Ideal duration for this would be 500 hours, especially if it is not going to be under the school or the university structure. So this could apply to any specialized course you would want to offer. Likewise, the same would translate to intermediate and advanced level as well. As far as the school or university is concerned, we are governed by the academic calendar. As far as the university is concerned, we have around 45 hours to 48 hours. Likewise, the school might ask you to offer around 90 hours of contact programs with your students. I hope this information is helpful.